Hello, my name is Crystal Grantier, and I'm a member of the Global Church team. Our hope this week is to invite you to be present with the Global Church through stories and scripture. We invite you to consider how these stories might be an encouragement to our church community. I want to share a portion of an article from Open Doors USA posted on their website March 18th of this year, authored by Linda Laurie. According to their website, they are, quote, a community of Christians who come together to support persecuted believers in more than 60 countries. The article is titled, Chinese Pastor from Wuhan. The virus can't stop us. I'm choosing not to share the pastor's name given in the article. It reads, You likely didn't physically worship with your church last weekend, and it seems like that won't be happening again for a while. But for millions of our persecuted brothers and sisters around the world, regular worship services have never been an option. Yet, they still find ways to worship. A powerful reminder to the Western Church is that the church is not a building, but a community that follows the ways of Jesus, and that God is with us wherever we are, working in unseen ways in the lives and hearts of his people. Throughout Scripture, we see how persecution and crisis compelled people to look at something differently, often for the bigger kingdom picture through God's eyes. Through our persecuted family, we see how prayer and thanksgiving give us new vision to see him working in and through earthly events, even a global pandemic. The pastor leads a church in China, in Wuhan, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. As one of the few church leaders who stayed in Wuhan during the outbreak, this pastor is talking about what he's seen as a result. The crisis has forced him to look at things differently, with new vision. His church meets online only, and they're learning to be the church, he says, instead of do church. The pastor shares how the crisis is driving more prayer and deepening community. The virus can't stop us, he says. In the pastor's own words, first, we have more than 50 groups. Almost all the groups are meeting via internet, praying, studying the Bible, sharing, witnessing, praising, and worshiping. Among them, we have more than 30 groups that are spending 2 hours a day from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. to pray, worship, share, and testify together. That's far more frequent than our normal meetings. So the epidemic hasn't cut down our meetings. It's the opposite. And there's a 24-hour fasting and prayer. And we are doing an even and every hour prayer as well. So I think after this, many of the brethren will be more willing to take part in the communication with other brethren, to encourage each other, and to share with each other. If you want to learn more, I invite you to visit the Open Doors USA site. This story reminds me of Acts chapter 2, verse 42, which says, in speaking about the believers, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer.
My name is Lori Gerritsen, and I'm going to share a little bit about Archbishop Romero. Here's a picture and what he means to me. One quotation from Archbishop Romero that has always been very meaningful to me is he said, I don't believe in death without resurrection. If they kill me, I will rise again in the people of El Salvador. Archbishop Romero was a very conservative priest in El Salvador and became Archbishop in 1977. In the 1980s, thousands of people in El Salvador were being killed by a right-wing government, and Archbishop Romero was extraordinarily courageous in the midst of great violence and bloodshed throughout the country. And one of the things he did is he would speak on the radio during masses, and he was appealing to the soldiers to lay down their arms and to stop the fighting. Eventually, he was martyred because of his advocacy and because of his voice. I've always been amazed by his bravery and his courage and the way that he spoke. And it reminds me of the verse, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. But if it dies, it springs forth great life. And that is a miracle. If you want to learn more about Archbishop Romero and his life, we have a couple of videos available. And there's also a great movie that has been made about his life called Romero.
Here are some examples from Laos of the persecution that people there in many parts of the world experience every day because they follow Jesus. Jesus said to his followers, "In this unbelieving world you will experience trouble and sorrows, but you must be courageous, for I have conquered the world." In Laos, the percentage of Christians is between 3 and 4%. Believers are scattered among many ethnic groups. The communist government targets and closely watches all Christian activity. Persecution is most often expressed on a local or regional level. It can be intense and ruthless. A threat often heard by Christians in Laos and many other countries is, "Give up your faith, or else." In one village, the leaders decided that children from Christian families could not go to school because their families refused to contribute to the ancestral religious festivals. To show the power of the faith community, Christian families in surrounding villages took in these children during the week so that they could continue their education. The Christians then raised this issue with the government, which finally ruled that all children are to be enrolled in local schools. Families are now reunited. The bonding between villages where believers face challenges every day has been strengthened. Jesus said, "In this unbelieving world, you will experience trouble and sorrows, but you must be courageous, for I have conquered the world." We have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back. Give up your faith, or else. It is not uncommon for Christian families in Laos to be forced to move out of their villages because they are believers in Jesus. If it is only 1 or 2 families, they may be allowed to build small shacks near their rice fields for protection of their crops and personal safety. Later, they may be allowed back to their homes if leadership changes in the villages. We have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back. Give up your faith, or else. In some places, groups of Christian families in Laos have been forced to move away from their homes and rice fields, leaving them without any land or income, meaning food. Now Christian villages have been started in some areas, but land is always scarce. Other Christian groups try to help as much as they can, but almost everyone in rural areas is on the fringe of poverty. "If any of you want to be my disciples," Jesus said, "you must forget about yourselves. You must take up your cross each day and follow me." Now the God who gives peace and wholeness to his children around the world be with us all. Yes, Lord, let it be.
As you hear these stories and scriptures, we invite you to consider with us, how is the global church present with us? How can we be more present with the global church? And finally, as we invite the global church to be present with us in this season of Lent? How might they be mentoring us in our faith?